let's talk about your business, Ignite, right? So I know this talk Ignite lost a lot of money, right? There's problems. Why don't you just tell me, rather than me ask you questions, tell me in your own words, what's the story with Ignite? What was its idea at the beginning? What were the problems along the way, the successes, and where is it now?
Okay, so basically at the start of this thing, I came out of the fucking gates firing, making a lot of noise, doing the parties, just basically letting people know this is the fucking brand. The Instagram blew up. I mean, it's got, I think, like 3.4 million followers, got better engagement than fucking Nike. It's like got, millions and millions of views on their posts. Everything's doing really well for the social part. People know the brand, it's recognized. The issue is coming out of the gates, we picked the wrong fucking products. It's marijuana, which we could only sell in California or, California and Canada. Like, we had very limited spots where we could do it. And 80% of my following is outside the US. So we were really capitalizing on a sliver of my following. Like, all these people wanted to buy products, but we had a very restricted product that we could sell. And it was a terrible industry too. Like, we would buy from the grower, then we would sell the dispensary, would make that little fucking rip in between. It was just like a terrible, terrible business. We're competing against black market, who's operating with impunity. They don't have to pay taxes. They don't have to test their products. They never lose batches. It's just impossible to compete, right? Nobody in the cannabis business is doing well right now. And it's impossible to really establish a global brand. You can't even ship across state lines. Just terrible, terrible business. So we made the noise, we crushed the marketing, but we just failed on the business side because we didn't put products to market in enough places. So we had this guy, Curtis, and, we ended up firing him. And when we fired him, he went crazy and did this whole whistleblower campaign, like, Ignite's losing money, it's funding Dan's lifestyle, it's blah, 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 like all this shit. And, from the time we got rid of him, we started, we pivoted, we started doing more vapes, we're doing the beverage stuff. And and look, everybody gets caught up on like, oh, he lost 50 million in a year. It's like, fuck, we might do that in the fucking fourth quarter this year. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're crushing it. So like,
but I want to get the good stuff on the business side, because there's a lot of misconceptions about Ignite. And also, I'm good friends with Dave Bell. I want to get the good story out there, right? So
yeah, no.
And by the way, losing 50 million is not that much in the fucking real world of business. I mean, people lose a lot more than that in high tech on the way up to building a brand. So it's like, let's put it in perspective.
Uber lost $5 billion in a quarter. You know what I'm saying?
I know exactly right.
Of like creating a global brand. Like, I don't think people understand like what big brands spend for like a global presence. And so to establish that straight off the fucking rip, on a brand that's brand new is kind of unheard of.
So here's what I would say, okay? Just as a pretty sophisticated guy at this sort of stuff, and I deal with the same stuff with the brand as you, right? So I know it well. Are there any things that you did that you think were unethical? Like, did you make any mistakes? Like, they were just, I should have done that. That was more for me than for my brand. Was there any of that going on?
Not really, because, for me, I was the driving force of this, like, I mean, I can show you the analytics on, I'll just pull up the analytics on my Instagram so you can just see it straight from the fucking horse's mouth here. So
what I'm trying to say is that, like, in other words, I think the false perception is that that's what happened. And I think what people don't understand is that, it's one of those rare circumstances where you are the brand is you. There's a very fine line of like, of what would be self-interest and what's in the best interest of the brand. And it's quite possible that, you just made some mistakes, because we all do that. Hey, maybe I shouldn't have done it, but it wasn't. It was for me. It was a stupid idea, but it wasn't because I thought I was getting a personal benefit. Is it more along that what happened?
Yeah, I mean, look, for the 50 million wasn't just like marketing, right? Like, the marketing was a small fraction of that, and I paid for a decent amount of it. Like, the yacht that we did, I paid for more than Ignite did. Like, there was a lot of stuff that we did where I would foot the bill for some of this stuff. Like, and a lot of the stuff in the Curtis Heffernan lawsuit that he listed was stuff that I personally paid for. Like, we had the accountant go through, and everything that was personal, I paid. Everything that was business was Ignite. But here's the Instagram stats. Like, can you see that?
Yes, 32 million. What is that?
Well, 72 million impressions, 40 something million accounts reached. I mean, you could just see the fucking, the I mean, it's like what, like 1.7 million shares on this post. Like, so I'm just saying, like, those numbers are like Super Bowl ads, you know? And so what do people pay for Super Bowl ads? Well, I was doing all that shit for free. Like, I did all the fucking posts. I didn't charge them anything. I didn't even take a salary for Ignite for a while. So like, you know, what's the value that I'm presenting to the brand when I'm, you know, reaching 72 fucking million people? Because, you know, like 30 something million people follow me, but how many people are fucking like have my notifications on, you know, that aren't technically following, that are watching all my shit. And you see it in the videos, dude. I'm getting like 42 million views on my fucking videos. Like The Rock doesn't get that. Kardashian doesn't get that. Like, so it's a big platform and it's a valuable platform. And, you know, but part of that is like, you know, we need content, and some of that content costs money if you're doing lifestyle stuff. So, you know, there was money spent on some lifestyle stuff, but it wasn't, you know, like a crazy amount. Like, I think it was like under 10 million bucks. You know, so
I guess, like, you know what is happens with advertising and brand building is that, you know, the old thing on Madison Avenue goes, yeah, you know, 10% of my success comes from, or 90% of my success comes from 10% of my ads. I just don't know which 10%. So it's like easy to look back in retrospect. Oh, he shouldn't have done that. But sometimes you just don't know. You're taking shots. You're seeing what's working, what doesn't. At the end of the day, if you build a brand, I guess the real question is if that led to where you are now, then it was successful. That's 100%. The point.
I mean, look, you know, when our fourth quarter results come out and people see what we're doing in vape sales, it's all over. It's proven, because I haven't done anything. Like, we haven't spent any money on marketing. So everything has come from like the previous stuff that we've done. And, you know, the brand has a fucking crazy global footprint. I mean, you'll see it. Like I said, you'll see it in the South American sales. Right. You'll see it on the fucking EU sales. You'll see it in the UK. You'll see it in fucking Armenia. You'll see it in all the different countries that we're in. And then it'll just be very fucking apparent that it worked.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's just very important, I think, for people to understand that it's easy to point the finger at someone and say they did this, they did that. But the bottom line is, in the real trenches of business, the stuff is it's happening hard and fast. You don't know. You can look back and always say, oh, I shouldn't have done this. I should have done that. That's what worked. But you didn't know when you're doing it. You're just trying what you're trying, right?
Yeah. The mistake that we made was having the wrong products, not getting products to market fast enough, and not getting the shelf space. So those are the mistakes made. However, you know, the brand building stuff has, you know, clearly, you know, carried over. And, you know, and it's funny because a lot of people think, oh, like, you know, he used like shareholders' money and this and that. We didn't fucking take shit from any of the shareholders. Right. Like, I put $25 million of my own fucking money in Ignite. You know what I mean? Like, the money that we raised was like all private capital. It wasn't on the fucking, you know, public market. So it's like, you know, none of this, and everybody that put in money knew exactly what the fuck was going on. It wasn't like, you know, we're taking money from fucking random fans.
I know this to be true because I know someone that's a large investor. So I know for a fact that what you're saying is true. Yeah. That there was no money stolen or anything like that. So it's important for people to know that.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's a public company. It's like all out there. There's no fucking secrets, you know. And so I think, you know, you've got this, you know, like I said, you've got Curtis's like negative fucking PR campaign that he launched, you know, to try and like, you know, get money, you know, because he was fired, and he was fired because, you know, it wasn't because he was a fucking idiot. It was just because, you know, he just wasn't good at running a company.
Strategy didn't work, right?
Yeah. He wasn't able to turn it into sales, you know. And you look at the moment that we fucking cut him loose to where we are now, our sales have gone like a fucking hockey stick. So it's like, you know, he's just going to look stupid in court because the moment he's fired, we fucking, you know, start crushing it. And, you know, like I said, when our fourth quarter results come out, that'll speak for themselves, and, you know, and people will see the growth trend, and I think it'll be all over.